Okay, well, as I said, good afternoon. My name's Sarah Glenn. I'm the Associate Director in the Center for Career Development within the Chambers College, and I'm joined by my colleague Ashley Lesnick, who is the Assistant Director of Undergrad Programs in the office. Today, what we are going to do is cover how to navigate the Handshake platform, and that's just going to be sort of a quick overview that I'm going to run through. And really, we want to spend the majority of the time talking about how do you figure out which companies you want to talk to at the career fair. How do you kind of dig deeper into some of the job descriptions and positions that they have posted in Handshake, and you just aren't sure if they're a good fit for you? So we're going to run through quickly how to navigate the platform, and then I will kick it over to Ashley for the remainder of the presentation. If anybody has any questions, you can pop them in the chat. We'll be checking that. You also can just unmute yourself and interrupt us whenever we're doing screen share. Sometimes it's hard to see if you're personally raising your hand or even doing the little raise hand icon. So feel free to just unmute and interrupt us as we go. All right. Ashley, are you able to see my Handshake page? All right. Perfect. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is show you how to get your Handshake profile ready to be viewed by employers. So when you log into the system, this is typically the page that you're going to land on. The first thing you want to do is make sure that all of the information in your profile is complete and up to date. So you would just navigate to either your initials or your headshot in the upper right-hand corner and click on My Profile. And from here, you're going to do a couple of things. I recommend that you upload a professional headshot to your profile just to make sure that employers can start associating a name with a face. And then you want to make sure all of the information is correct. So is everything in your education section reflective of your current educational situation? Maybe you want to add some work or volunteer experience to your Handshake profile, add content to the organizations and extracurricular sections. You might wonder if this is a bit redundant to your resume, and it's not. The main reason is that employers can actually search for keywords in student profiles as well as looking at resumes. So if they are being proactive prior to the career fair and trying to find students to reach out to say, I saw that you had Python listed under your class projects and your Handshake profile. We're really looking for a student who has that skill. They can find you through again, that kind of profile search functionality in Handshake, in addition to those keywords on your resume. So really encourage you to build that out. For those of you that are our freshmen and sophomores in the room, maybe you haven't had an internship yet, or you haven't even had a part-time job on campus, that's okay. That's where those sections on extracurriculars, student organizations, and class projects come into play. So if you are trying to find your first IT internship, you have done a couple of class projects where you've worked with clients in the community and you've used certain platforms, pop that into the project section and it'll help you be discovered by employers prior to the fair. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that so far? Pretty straightforward. The next thing you want to do is really look at your privacy settings in your profile. We're not going to tell you to necessarily do one or the other, but you can change that under the settings tab here and adjust what types of information, data that employers can see about you, both those employers who are attending the career fair, as well as just employers in general who are in Handshake trying to connect with students. Okay, that's the main profile piece we wanted to show you. The next thing you want to do is make sure your resume is up to date. So you would click on your initials again, or your icon if you have a headshot uploaded, and just select documents. And here you can upload one or more documents and you can label them to stay organized. So if you have customized a couple of different resumes for different position types, make sure you clearly label those in the system so that you don't submit the wrong document to the wrong employer, which we have had that happen before. So be really careful with that. Okay. You can also upload cover letters here, transcripts. We do have some organizations, a lot of the accounting firms do request unofficial transcripts to be submitted through Handshake. So here's where you would add that to your profile as well. Not as relevant for the career fair though. All right. Did we have a question? Oh, I think I heard someone chatting there for a second. Yeah, right. Okay, so the next thing that we want to talk about is how do you actually find the career fair in Handshake, register, and start looking for employers. So the fastest way to do that is go to events, click career fair, And then you can see that there's multiple career fairs on here. So for those of you that are interested in participating in multiple events, we encourage you to look at the employer participating in the Ag Fair, the STEM Fair, and the WVU Career and Internship Fair, which is the one that the Chambers College is hosting in partnership with the Central Career Services Center. But organizations at both of these events as well are looking for Chambers College students. And so please take a moment, get in there, see which types of companies are looking for you. And feel free to sign up. You don't have to be a Davis College student in order to participate in those events. So the first thing you'll do is click on the career fair. And then you're going to click the purple register button. All this does is let us know that you plan to attend. You haven't actually signed up for anything yet. This is just giving us a heads up that you intend to participate in the fair. The important piece is figuring out what types of events that you want to RSVP to with the participating employers. And for those of you that did not attend the fall fair, I'm going to give a quick overview of how the system works. So there's two key ways that students can connect with employers during the career fair itself. The first one is, it's called a group session, and essentially they are 30-minute mini info sessions put on by the employers. These are, again, group sessions, so it's not a one-on-one conversation. It's going to essentially run like this, where representatives from the company will deliver a presentation and you'll have the ability to ask questions, but it's not a one-on-one dialogue. These are really great because they give you a chance to learn more about company culture, different opportunities at organizations that maybe you haven't heard of before. And so you can RSVP to those. The other way that you can connect with employers is to sign up for a 10-minute one-on-one conversation. And these are awesome because if you've been to an in-person career fair before and waited in line, and then you end up getting up to the employer and you have about 60 to 90 seconds to tell them everything you want to tell them and hop out of line, right? It can feel very rushed. This is 10 minutes of uninterrupted one-on-one time with reps from these companies. So it's not an official interview, but it is a significant opportunity for you to connect with them and really let them know what you have to offer and increase your odds of getting a formal interview. So we do have a session on February 22nd on how to navigate and plan for these conversations, as well as develop a follow-up plan for the companies that you meet with. So this is really system focused, getting signed up for the times, finding the right companies for you. Don't stop there. You want to make sure that you go to these other sessions and figure out how you're going to create good conversation flow and kind of targeted communication with each of the companies that you sign up with, okay? That's in Handshake. We'll be sending you reminders, but that's a really important event to attend. Okay, so once you've registered for the event, you can do two things. The first thing you can do is look at the comprehensive list of all employers who are attending. This is the Career Fair Details tab. Okay. When you scroll down, you will see that we have 83 registered employers. Okay. This page is going to take you to the company's corporate profile and Handshake. So wanted to point out that you might see Sherwin-Williams, Cleveland, Ohio on this landing page. That's because the corporate account in Handshake associated with Sherwin-Williams is out of Cleveland. That does not mean that all the opportunities that they're recruiting for at the career fair are in the locations listed on this tab. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. This is just linking to their corporate page, okay? The thing that you really want to do is go up under available sessions. This is where you can start looking at organizations who are specifically looking for you, your major, or your skill set, okay? And there's a couple different filters that you can use when you're looking for the right types of opportunities to register for. The one caution that we have is that some companies, they screen very tightly. Some, they select certain things that they classify as like a certain industry, and you might classify things a little bit differently. So if you're finding that you're not, seeing employers that are of interest to you, or you can't find a lot of times, you might want to consider expanding your filtering criteria, because it could be that some things are just getting filtered out, okay? The second thing we want to mention is that some organizations are, as of the filming of this on February 9th at 4:13, some organizations are still populating their 10-minute one-on-one availability in their group info session. So if you see someone on the attending list, but you don't see them listed in the available sessions tab, it might be that they're just still squaring stuff away with the employer representatives who's going to participate, and that might appear, this Friday. So check back regularly to see if people have added things. Okay. So as I said, you can go here and click on available sessions. You can set different filters for work authorization, industry, job type, major, etc. And then you can go in and you can start looking at the companies. And Ashley's going to dive a little bit deeper into this, so I don't want to steal her thunder on some of what we're looking at. So I'm just going to show you the mechanics of the system here. But let's say you are interested in working for Target. Okay, you want to be an executive store leader. I can see that they have both group sessions and available one-on-ones that I can sign up for. So the first thing I want to do is click on the one-on-ones. And I'm going to scroll down here, and before I select a time, I'm going to see who's attending. I can see the person's name and their job title, which is really neat because depending on the organization that you're signing up with, that job title might change who you schedule that one-on-one with. Okay. So I know that I want to talk to Daniel because he's the store director. So I will go ahead and click on 11 a.m. and click confirm. And now you can see, if you scroll up here, that appears up under my sessions column. Okay, so that's at 11 a.m. I'm also interested in, I'm just going to type in Estee Lauder. I heard that they're looking for HR interns. Okay, so right here, I'm going to click on this and I see that they have group sessions at all these different times. So I'm going to click on the 12 o'clock. And I see here that they have positions in marketing, comm, IT, supply chain, sales, HR, etc. Okay, definitely interested in them. So I'm going to go ahead and sign up for this 12 o'clock group session. So I will click confirm. And it's conveniently going to add it here to the My Sessions column. Couple tips as you are thinking about when to schedule your sessions. You can look at the availability now, start mapping out your day. It's awesome because you can build these around your class schedule if you work part-time off campus, things like that. Don't pack yourself in so tight that you have like an 11, an 11:10, an 11:20, an 11:30. Because if a company has a technical issue or you have a technical issue and they say, hey, let's take this conversation to yourself and I'm just going to call you because my video is not working, and that conversation is going well, you don't want to have to rush off at 11:10 because you've got something else booked. I encourage you to at least stagger 1 10-minute break between each of your sessions to give yourself that flex time. Obviously, there might be a few times where that doesn't work, but be intentional and try to schedule that as much as you can. The other tip is do not schedule a session with your dream company, if you can avoid it, at 11 a.m. Schedule a couple, work out the kinks, get used to the platform, right? And maybe schedule that dream session at 12:40, something like that. So just don't go in at the beginning of the fair, first conversation you have with the employer that you've always wanted to work for. You want to make sure you get some familiarity with the system first. Okay. Any questions on that so far? It's really straightforward once you know how to do it. There's just a couple of odd navigational things that students get hung up on, so we wanted to walk you through them. And then the last thing I really wanted to show you relative to the system is the Your Schedule tab. And this is really handy because it is your personal itinerary for the day of the fair. And so you'll notice here that there's a join video button. So on February 25th, when you log into Handshake to participate in the fair, you'll go to your schedule. And this is where the individual video link for all of your sessions will be housed. So you don't have to find a whole bunch of different Zoom links. You'll be able to click video. It'll take you right to that conversation, okay? The other thing that is important is that there's this purple button here that says set resume to visible. We talked earlier about those screening settings. This is another opportunity for you to make your resume visible to employers prior to the fair. We do recommend that you do this as long as your resume is in good shape, because it's going to help the employers prepare for their conversation with you, potentially identify a role or two that they want to direct you to during the conversation. So it is advisable to do this. If your resume does need work, please get with us as soon as possible when we can help you make those changes before you participate in the fair. But don't wait too long to start scheduling those one-on-one times. It is more important to get your schedule solidified. We can kind of work on some of those resume changes as we go. Okay. So again, this is pretty straightforward. The other thing that is important to note, you do want to schedule stuff in advance if you can, because it gives you control over your schedule. But let's say you attended info session at 11:30 because someone told you had to, and you're like, wow, I actually really like this company. I want to talk to them. If they have any available time slots later on in the day, you can sign up for those. You can grab a later 10-minute conversation with one of their reps the day of the fair. We don't recommend you doing all of your sessions like that. It doesn't allow for adequate time to prepare. And I also wouldn't maybe go into the conversation and say, I didn't really think I was going to care about y'all, but I was interested in the info session. So I would just say something like, I attended your group session this morning and something really stuck with me. And I just wanted to schedule a 10-minute conversation with y'all to talk about your supply chain internship. So if you do sign up the day of, you can kind of smooth over that conversation with them by explaining, how interested you were in them after you attended their group session. So, all right. Those are the biggest things we wanted to show you on the platform. If we don't have any questions, I just want to show you where to schedule a resume review with us if you don't know. You would go to Career Center. And click Appointments. And then schedule a new appointment, and you can navigate through there. So please reach out to us if you need any help at all with your resume, mock interviews. You want to have someone go through the list with you before the fair, help you pick out companies to talk to. We're more than happy to do that as well. If that's what you want to do, you can just schedule like job search as the appointment type and just write a note that says, want some help figuring out who to meet at the career fair. And we would be more than happy to have those conversations with you as well. All right. Well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and give Ashley a chance to pull up her slide deck here. Great.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. Can you see my screen? Are you able to see my slide, Sarah? Perfect. So today, Sarah went over some of the navigation of the system and how to really schedule those appointments and kind of some strategy behind it as well. But what I wanted to do with you guys is to talk about your fit. So when you're looking at all of these companies and you're not really sure what they are, or maybe you're looking at all of these positions and you're kind of getting lost in job titles or internships, or just even understanding a job description, because those can be really tough. So what I wanted to do with you guys is to help you navigate that a little bit better. So understanding how to find that fit in a company and getting to know yourself as well, because the job search is a really personal search. So you really have to know yourself very well to then understand what positions you would be good at or what positions that you want, because sometimes the job search seems so vast, like I can do anything or I'm fine with doing anything. But when you really start drilling down into some of those must-haves, you realize that everything is not for you. And I was in that situation as an undergrad. Like I was just like, well, I could do anything. I went to school for HR, but like I could do anything in HR. I could do all of these things. And then I would start getting experiences in them, or just looking at myself and thinking like, maybe I can't do this, or maybe I don't want to do this, or this is something that I really want to have in a career. I want that connection. I want this. So we're going to talk about identifying those must-haves, how to find those companies with those must-haves, understanding some of those job descriptions too, because you can actually tell a ton of information from job descriptions, not only about that position, but also about the company, about the culture. So how do we navigate that and understand what those job descriptions are telling us? And then we're going to play a little match game. So I'm going to give you a little scenario, and I'll make this as interactive as possible. So I'm not just going to tell you what your must-haves are. You're going to want to do some self-reflection during this time too. I'll give you a little some time here and there to kind of think about these things for yourself. So the first thing that I want to really talk about is to get to know yourself. Like I said, the job search is so personal. So you really want to think about some of these things on a level that maybe you haven't thought about before. Maybe you know yourself really well, you know exactly what you want, and that is perfect. But a lot of times we don't know ourselves, or really don't take the time to think about who we are, and what makes us unique, because that's what the companies are going to want to hear. What makes you unique? Why are you a good fit for this position or this company? And that'll come out during that interview process. So if you're doing it ahead of time, you're actually setting yourself up for success, to answer those questions once you get into that interviewing setting. And also, you're setting yourself up to make yourself more successful in your career. There is ties to, if somebody has, a stake in the company, as far as, if they're interested in what they're doing, or they really love what they have a passion for it, they're more likely to be successful in those roles. So when you're starting off by getting to know yourself and what you really enjoy and what you like about a company, or what you like about a position, you're actually setting yourself up for success later on down the road. So what I want you guys to do is, I have some questions up here on the screen. So I want you to pick a few of these, and I want you to write it down, open up a Google Doc, and start thinking about this kind of stuff. So Sarah always talks about guided imagery in some of these things. So I'm even going to take you through, a scenario where maybe you're driving to your company 5 years or 10 years from now, and what that looks like. So one of the first things that I want you guys to pick is what makes you unique. So if there's something that really stands out to you, and sometimes this is really hard to think about, like, what makes me me? I want you guys to write that down. It doesn't have to be job related. When we're talking about getting to know yourself, this is holistic. This isn't just, in that job or in a company setting. You're going to want to think about what makes you unique. The next thing that I want you guys to think about is what kind of hobbies you have. So if you like to, I know we really can't hang out with friends and do a lot of social gatherings, but if you're an inherent social being, I want you to list that down. Or maybe you love video games, or maybe right now you're really into cryptocurrencies or the stock market. What are those things that right now are really interesting to you? And even if you know why they're interesting, start writing down why you think those are really interesting. So sometimes the stock market is really fun right now because there's other plays at hand. So social media, Reddit, whatever it might be, makes that interesting. But when you get down to the fundamentals of the stock market, do you really like that? And so sometimes you can look at some of these things and think, oh, I like this right now, but why do I like this right now? Or kind of vice versa. And then another thing to think about when you're creating those hobbies or things that you enjoy is think about, I'm going to Marie Kondo your job search right now. Think about those things that really bring you joy. So think about it, take a moment and, hold it in your hand and think, okay, what do I really enjoy doing? What brings me joy? What energizes me when I'm doing it? Instead of, things that you just do to do. So if you're somebody that, really doesn't enjoy social situations, but you do them anyways, think about that too. So, or if you much rather would just sit and read a book, are you that extrovert? Are you an introvert? Those are really important keys in the job search. And then think about your values too. So think about what you really value. Is it community service? Is it helping others, with that community service? Is it, it could be, a million different things. Think about your values and what you really hold true to yourself. And that's also some of those things that make you unique as well. And so I'll give you a few minutes to start thinking about this, and then I'll walk you through the guided imagery piece as well. Sarah, do you have anything to add on values or the hobbies that are bringing you joy?
No, I thought that was all very good.
Perfect. So when you're thinking about yourself and your career, sometimes we don't necessarily see ourselves in specific roles. So what I'm going to take you through is just a really easy kind of way to think about what culturally you might be a good fit for, or even just where you can see yourself. And this is going to help to kind of piece together what companies you should be looking at, or thinking about those must-have lists as well. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to imagine yourself 5-6 years down the road. You've landed your first job. What do what time are you waking up in the morning, when you're getting ready to go? How are you getting ready? So are you getting dressed in business professional? Are you wearing smart casual, or more casual outfit? Are you going to, right now we're all just going to our computer screens, is that something you enjoy? Are you going to become part of that remote workforce? Or do you see yourself maybe commuting and driving into work? Think about how long you want that commute to be too. So I know I was a crazy person. I didn't mind a commute. Now I think I would mind a commute, working from home and not commuting as far anymore. But I used to have a very long commute, but it was something that I liked and I didn't mind it. Do you see yourself with a long commute? And then when you're pulling up to work, where are you? Are you in a city? Are you in a suburb? Are you in a small company, or you're pulling up to a large skyscraper? Where are you pulling up to when you're driving in? And then when you going into work, what does that setting look like? Are you maybe, if you're in the engineering side of things, are you on site somewhere, or are you in a firm? So think about that too, of where you're going to be working, what that daily looks like. And also think, does every day look relatively the same? Am I going into the same office every day, or am I traveling? So those are some questions to think about in your job search, to get to know what you're looking at and what you want out of your career, or that company that you're looking for. Also think about what your team looks like. So think about who your boss might be, or how they might interact with you. Think about communication too. So these are just some things to think about, to get to know yourself. And I know I've kind of added a lot of things in there, but this is a really good start for you to think about that job search, or think about that company and what you really want. So the next thing I want you to do is to identify your must-haves. So this is going to be on the company side, and later on we'll go through the job and the position side as well. But when you were thinking about driving into work, what was that location? So think about location as a must-have. So maybe you want to go back home. Or maybe you really have enjoyed West Virginia and you want to stay in West Virginia. Or maybe you're like, I've always dreamed of living in Oregon or living in California, and I want to go to the West Coast. What is your location must have? Also think about industry. So do you want to go into a specific industry, and thinking about that industry, or even if it's a specific, or even just, I want to be in a growing industry. That is something to look at too. So maybe you're not pinned in on a specific manufacturing or oil and gas or education as these industries, but you're more open, but you're looking at something that might be growing. So think about that. And then another big thing to think about is company size. So are you interested in a global firm with 25,000 plus employees, or are you looking more at a small to mid-size firm where there's pros and cons to each one of these? So kind of think about what you want. Do you want that small business feel? Do you want that startup feel? Or do you want an established company with a long history of success, or even just a long history there? So just think about that for your industry and your company size piece. And then also we talked a little bit about our own values earlier. And so now you're going to want to think of a company, and when you're researching these companies, looking at their values and their mission, do they align with what your values are? Because the better they align, it's kind of that same thing. The better that they align, the more successful you're going to be. And also kind of the more connection you're going to have to your job and your company, which also increases longevity at an organization too. And then culture. Culture is an awesome must-have. So thinking about what you want in that culture. So do you want a fun, work hard, play hard mentality type culture, or do you want something that might be a little bit more conservative or more traditional? So start thinking about what that culture looks like to you. So I'll give you a minute here, guys, to write down your must-haves. So if you have that location must-have, and I'll also open it up if anybody wants to share some of their must-haves. I'd be happy to hear some of those.
One of my must-haves is location. I was born in Alabama and moved to West Virginia later in my life. So I'm like definitely looking for a place in the South.
Do you miss the South, Michaela?
I 1000% do. It was a huge culture shock when I was 10. So that is definitely one of my big must-haves.
Perfect. And that's wonderful. So when you are searching for those companies, some of the best ways that you can do that is by looking and seeing who has a large presence in the South. So, looking at what your major may be, or even some of the industries or some of the things that are growing in the Southern market. And those are typically some really good things to kind of kick off that job search. So if you're just looking at that South and you're not really looking at a specific, city, some of the growing things there are going to be different than what they are in the Northeast or the Midwest. So looking at some of those emerging and growing markets are a really good way to start that search in the South. So I love that, Michaela. Anybody else want to share one of their must-haves?
I feel like one of mine, like it kind of goes in between the company size and then the values and missions. I don't want to join a company that's like so big people could potentially like cross you over. But I also don't want it too small because like there's always room for new ideas and promotions and stuff. So like the values within those co-workers could be like that you care, that you're like going to move forward and not be rude in the company. I mean, I just want people who are like basically nice, even if it's fake.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like that size thing, because size is something that you guys have taken into consideration once before in your lifetime when you were actually looking at coming to WVU. So think about those must-haves when you were looking at your at colleges too, of, I wanted something that was maybe a little bit larger, but I still was able to get that customized kind of one-on-one feel with my professors, and my class size was nice too. So think about that and how you can kind of flip that into the job search with your must-haves too. So Alexia, I really like that, the job size and the company size. I thought, at one point in my job search, I was really going to like small companies and small businesses. And then I had an internship at a small business and realized from that moment that I really just wanted larger organizations, or organizations that were more mid-sized too. So I like that, you're looking at those maybe smaller or mid-sized firms to make an impact, one of those ones that maybe aren't too large. So perfect, guys. So keep thinking of those things for yourself, and we're going to go into how we find those companies. So The one thing that, because we're focusing in on the career fair, what's nice is we already have a list of companies that are going to be there. So what I really want you to do is to take your must-have list and start looking at and comparing it to some of these companies that are going to be at the career fair. Obviously, in your holistic job search, please feel free to use Handshake and LinkedIn to really pull some of these companies that maybe you haven't heard of yet, but you're going to want to start your search very broad when you're looking at companies. So search by positions, but leave it very vague. So if you're a marketing major or you're looking at internships, just start with a very vague position title search. And then Michaela said she wanted to be in the South. So maybe we start our search in Birmingham, or we start our search in Georgia, in Atlanta. So we start our search somewhere in the South and we leave that very broad. That's able to pull results for us that know that they are hiring for positions in my field. In my field of study. And it also gets to show you kind of what those companies are looking like. So you can actually dive deeper into those companies and see, okay, do these have what I have on my must-have list? Does the company size look good? Does the location look good? Let's talk also about the values. Do my values align? So really start thinking about that list and start checking them off, of, okay, yes, this matches a little bit. But also, I don't want you to pigeonhole yourself of like, if something doesn't match fully. So if it's not 100% match to your must-have list, that you're just not even considering it. Stay open-minded. So what I like to do, I like to use a rule of thumb. If it halfway matches, so maybe location and size are the biggest thing, but maybe the values are worded a little bit differently, or maybe the culture is a little bit differently, I would still keep an open mind. I would still talk to them. So at the career fair, what I would suggest is if there's some companies that fit that like 50 to 75% hit on my must-have list, I would schedule a group session with them to hear what they have to offer, because sometimes you're not able to fully see what that culture looks like or what those values look like just by reading their website or just by reading a job description. Yes, you can get a good picture of it, but maybe you don't understand it fully. So then you're able to hear from that company and see what their values in practice and their culture in practice. And then later on, so say you've never heard of them as a company, but they hit some of those values that your must-haves, and you schedule that group session with them and you realize that it's an amazing company that you never thought you would like or consider. And then that's when you would go and maybe schedule that one-on-one later on in the day, like Sarah was talking about. So sometimes there will be a situation where, especially at some career fairs or even on job boards, you'll come across companies that you've never heard of. So they don't have those brand names that we know of, like the Coca-Colas, the Pepsis of the world. They're not that name brand. And so sometimes we don't know who they are or what they do, but it's important to keep an open mind that you might find the perfect fit in a company that you've never heard of before. And then once you do that research, you find that kind of perfect match. So keeping an open mind is incredibly important. So we're going to flip it over to identifying the must-haves in a position. So these ones will kind of graze through a little bit, but we won't go nearly as in depth on the company side because these ones can get pretty technical. So if you guys are pretty complicated in some of those ways. So if you guys want to, Sarah showed you how to schedule appointments. If you guys really wanted to dive deep into this job searching piece, you can schedule an appointment with anybody on the team to talk a little bit more about your must-haves and identifying them and really finding that fit. So in a position, you're going to want to, again, analyze yourself. Are you creative or are you analytical? And is that position matching that? So is that position more of a creative style position? Do you have more of that autonomous freedom to, create things? Or is it more of a technical role? Are you, sitting behind a desk and analyzing big sets of data or whatever it might be? Is it technical versus non-technical? So what skills are you using during that position? So when you're reading through that job description, are there technical skills that you have that match that job description? Or are there some of those softer skills or those non-technical skills that match that position too? Also, sometimes from a job description, you can actually see what management style that might be utilized during that position. So sometimes they'll say you'll get a mentor, or you'll have your you will be directly reporting to X person. So sometimes you're able to see that management style, as well as if it's that more autonomous role, or if you're working on a team as well. So you're able to see that team or autonomous style from those job descriptions. And then also you're able to sometimes see growth opportunities. So if there's a company that really values growth, a lot of times they'll put that in those job descriptions. So you'll see a lot of companies put in that are employees grow from within. So, maybe senior leadership have all started off in one position and moved all the way up to the top, that they value, internal hires. So that's something to look for in those job descriptions as well. And then also identifying what your compensation or your future earning potential would be is also a big thing to look at when you are, applying for some of these positions and some of these companies as well. I always like to say, don't just bank on, I'm going to earn 6 figures in this role. Don't use that as your only must-have, because sometimes you'll find companies that you'll start off in a lower, earning bracket and be able to work your way up very quickly. Some have very set times when you can. So if you go into like a government role, there's very set times where you get raises. And so it really just depends on what industry you're looking at. So if you want that almost exponential growth, you might want to look at different positions than if you're okay with the compensation of being very structured too. So think about that in your search on industries and in different positions too. What do you want that future earning potential to look like? And don't just hang your hat on, I only want to earn this much. Keep your options open, because it is you are available to earn, as much as you want, but just make sure that that's not the only thing that you're thinking about in that job search, because it will really kind of pigeonhole you, or you might be very dissatisfied in some of those, some of the job search pieces. So understanding the job description, you're really going to want to look at these job descriptions and be able to read them thoroughly. How many of you guys, and you can just you don't have to shout it out. You can raise your hand or do the little thumbs up emoji, whatever you want. How many of you guys have applied to a position, be honest, and not fully read the job description? I've done it. Yes. Yes. So it happens. We get busy, or sometimes job descriptions are really complicated for whatever reason. And we just get lost and we don't fully read it. We just look at what the requirements are. Do I match the GPA? Do I match the class year they're looking for? Do I match the the job description sounds okay. Okay, I'm applying to it. So I understand that is a thing and that happens. But what I want you guys to do and really take forward with you is reading thoroughly through those job descriptions. They are a great cheat sheet. And I like to call them cheat sheets versus job descriptions now, because I feel like it's a little bit easier. They're a great cheat sheet to customizing your resume, to knowing the company culture, knowing exactly what they're looking for too, and also interviewing. So if you get to the interviewing stage, it is almost like a cheat sheet that they've laid out for you of questions they're going to ask you. So if you know that job description front and back, you can almost guarantee they're going to ask you. So if there's something about teamwork in there, if there's something about a technical skill, you can almost guarantee that they're going to ask you about these during the interview process. So the better you read through and the more knowledge that you have of these job positions when you're applying to them, the better off you're going to be in that long run. And you don't have to be a 100% match to that job description. You can be, I fit 60 or 75% of the bill for these positions and still apply to them. So don't think of it as, cut and dry. Just know that, if it comes up during an interview, those are all kind of fair game qualifications, or some of those requirements are all fair game for them to ask you. So when you're looking at some of these qualifications and these requirements, a lot of times they'll ask, is there a specific, they'll ask for a specific GPA threshold. So I'm looking for 3.2 and above, or they're looking for a specific class year. So there are a few different, I know that there's some students in here that are looking for internships this summer. One of the things that I notice a lot on internship, during my internship chats with the students is that the job descriptions will say like junior preferred, or they'll say looking for a rising junior. If they're looking for the junior preferred, sometimes it's okay for a sophomore to apply to those. If they are specifically asking for a rising junior or a rising senior, then if you're a sophomore, I would say probably not the place to apply to it, because they're looking specifically for that. But if they list that they have a preference or that they're open to sophomores, it's a good thing that you can apply to those. But just watch that kind of wording and those requirements and qualifications when you are applying to some of those. And then when you're looking at that majority, I was saying earlier about like the technical skills and the soft skills, as long as you have a majority, you're great to apply for those. Also, those job descriptions are great for looking at core values and what a successful employee has, some of those attributes that they have. And then you can also tell from those job descriptions now if it's a remote position, where the locations are. Sometimes they'll even list how many locations that they have nationwide or across the globe in there too. So if you're looking for a global company and that's something that really is one of your values, you're able to see that in the job description as well. Sometimes they'll even put hybrid. So you might be spending a few days in the office, or you might be traveling, some of those. So that is something that you'll get from that job description as well. So I'm going to play a little game with you guys. And there are two companies that are coming to the career fair. I've pulled some job descriptions from them. So we're going to role play. I'm going to be an intern. I'm looking for an internship, and I'm a junior marketing student. I have a 3.2 GPA. And I've listed some of my must-haves here. So home for me is the DC Baltimore area. So preferably in that Washington DC area. Nova would be great, but also I'm okay with Baltimore. I'm looking for a mid to small size company. I would love to grow within the organization. So I really would like somebody that values like professional development. I would like to grow with the organization too. So start off as an intern and maybe get hired on full time, and really kind of grow from there within the company, maybe go into management later. I'm really motivated by competition, incentives. So I really want to show off my skills there of I have that competitive nature. And then the last thing, I would love to travel. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of these job descriptions. Of course, my single sign-on logged me out. So give me a second here. What I want you guys to do is I want you to look at these two job descriptions and think of what position myself, my fake self would be interested in. So we'll start off here with the Stanley Black & Decker job description. Of course, it didn't pull up. Give me a second here to find this. Do you guys have any questions before we do this little role play? Feel free to drop them in the chat. here's the Stanley Black & Decker job description. So some of our must-haves, what I want you to do is kind of look at this and see if you can pick out any of the must-haves that were on my list. Does anybody see anything yet? It's kind of like a game, like I Spy. Motivated, Alexia says motivated. Yes, absolutely. So we'll scroll down a little bit more. Marketing, absolutely. Perfect, Mackenzie. My location matches, perfect. And then, not too big. All right, all right. Let's see here. There's something I want, make sure, there we go. Anything else that you see? Growth culture, perfect. Results oriented, nice. Guys, you're finding these, perfect. There's one last one. The last one, I'll give you a hint here, is travel. So right here it says work daily at the Home Depot as a Stanley Black & Decker sales rep. So that would mean that I would get to travel in that position too. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the ALCU job description as well. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna look through some of these and just drop in the chat what you see here. Growth, absolutely, perfect. Reward driven, wonderful. So a few other things on here, there's the opportunity for advancement and promotion. So that growth culture is in there too. It has some of that work hard, play hard, fun culture. You know, it's motivated by incentives. So that reward driven piece is in there as well. And it is also location. It says Harrisonburg, Virginia here, but it also says Herndon. So Nova, so Northern Virginia, so it's close to home as well. And down here, we can actually see that it is a small firm as well. So what I wanted you guys to see here, and it's kind of a fun thing to do, would you guys suggest one company over the other for me? So not necessarily. Yes, they both match my matching game here. They have my must-haves that I'm looking for. And if you noticed how easy it was to read through that job description and find those key things in my key must-have list. That is huge. So once you have that set up, it's actually really easy for you to pull if you're going to be interested in this company, or maybe if you won't be interested in this company. In my case, I had two really good options that I could go into the career fair and schedule a one-on-one session with them. Or maybe I schedule that one-on-one with Stanley Black & Decker, and then Alcu I go and see, what their culture really looks like, or vice versa. So I'm able to go through and I'm able to see, hey, these match what I'm looking for. I'm going to schedule some times for them because I have this must-have list. It's really easy for me to read through these job descriptions and come up with that. So that really concludes my portion. So I just want to, thank you guys for coming in and listening to us today. And again, if you guys need any of this customized job search, if you're having some problems or troubles coming up with this must-have list, or really just want some help in seeing what positions are out there, what companies are out there, please don't hesitate to schedule appointments with us through Handshake and get your session scheduled for the career fair. So I'll open it up for any questions from you guys. Awesome, guys. So thank you. If you don't have any questions, I'll stick around, and Sarah will stick around too. So if you're having trouble navigating the system, but if not, have a great night, and we'll hopefully see you at the career fair. Virtually, of course.
So I have a question.
Yeah,
So like, if you wanted to apply for a certain position, but there was also like another one that interested you, would it be harmful to like apply those two or like a few in the same company?
I'm going to flip it over to Sarah. So Sarah has a really good example of yes and no for both of these. So it just depends on the company, but I'll flip it to Sarah for this one.
Yeah. So in terms of whether or not you could apply to multiple positions and locations, so KPMG is a perfect example. They actually just launched a video this spring that talks about the entire life cycle of like the application process for KPMG. And one of the things that they specifically point out in it is that it is one location and one job posting. Not all companies are like that, but what is helpful is I think a lot of organizations realize that there's no consistency with that across the board. So they're trying to make that more clear on their own pages. So if you're applying to people, you can always let us know and say, hey, I'm applying to EY. What's their philosophy on that? EY, I think they have you ranked 2 to 3. So every company is going to be different. So that might create more questions for you than answers. But if you can't find it, let us know. We can sometimes navigate those company systems a little bit more quickly and see if we can find it out there. But I also recommend looking at their YouTube pages because that's where a ton of this information is now being revealed. Some of it's in print on the website, and then some of them are creating these new YouTube videos that they're sharing with their schools. And so I would check there too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Hannah. Awesome. I'm going to stop sharing. I just realized I was still sharing.
I just had a quick question for either Abby or Ashley about the readiness program. How do I document that I came to this and participated?
Yeah, so because it was with our office and through Handshake, we're actually able to see that. So we will be uploading that into eCampus. So you'll be able to, you won't have to do anything for this one. It's only if you go to like a big campus-wide event or maybe something outside of Handshake that you would have to submit anything. So good question though, Alexia.
All right, thank you. And then also tomorrow, Sherm